Alright, so The Invite. That was interesting. I genuinely don't think that film could have gone much better for me, honestly. Because if you'd asked me where I thought this was going to land before I walked into the cinema, I would have probably said somewhere in the middle. I wasn't massively hyped. I wasn't expecting one of my favourite movies of the year. I just thought, yeah, that trailer looks pretty interesting, right? I do really like Olivia Wilde as a director, though. I thought Booksmart was a really good directorial debut. And even with the follow-up, Don't Worry Darling, which people do have very mixed opinions on, I still thought there was a lot to admire there, and I really liked it. Both of her films up to this point haven't really blown me away, but they've been fun times where I've just enjoyed them, you know? So coming into this, I was just mainly curious, because this is her third film. What's she gonna do next? Is she gonna play it safe after Don't Worry Darling? Or is she gonna double down on making people feel as uncomfortable as they possibly can? Turns out, definitely the second one. And before I go any further, the basic setup is this. Joe and Angela's marriage is on thin ice. When they invite their enigmatic upstairs neighbours for a dinner party, the night spirals into very unexpected places. That's all you need to know going into this, really. I'm keeping this spoiler free as always, but I think the less you know going into this, the better. And honestly, I had an absolute blast with this thing. This is such a significant step up from Olivia Wilde's first two films, and it's easily her best in my opinion. It just feels like everything came together. The script, the performances, the directing, the editing, the pacing. It feels like everyone involved understood the assignment, and you can feel that when you're watching it. Nobody feels like they're making a different film. Everyone is locked in on this one tone, which sounds like such a difficult thing with a film like this, because it is juggling so much. It's talking about marriage, relationship, sex, mental health, communication, identity, all these different ideas, while also being completely hilarious. And I don't mean, oh yeah, I had a little laugh. I mean tears coming down my face, crying at some point, because oh, this thing is so funny, dude. I cannot remember the last time a film had me laughing this much in the cinema. It's the kind of comedy that just completely catches you off guard. The dialogue is so quick, people are constantly interrupting each other, making these tiny side comments that could go completely over your head because you're still laughing at the last joke. I actually think I'd catch way more on a second viewing, to be honest, because there's absolutely no way I heard every joke the first time. I think if you were to compare it with something recent, it would probably be The Drama, in that it's this very socially awkward, uncomfortable kind of comedy, and the screenplay is just so sharp. And the thing is, I loved this because it wasn't trying too hard to be funny either. The comedy just naturally comes from these people being trapped in unbelievably awkward situations. Every time you think, oh, surely this can't get any worse than it is, it somehow does, and I love that. Honestly, watching this film, it feels like you're stuck at the world's worst dinner party. You know those situations where someone says something and the whole room goes, oh no. That's basically this entire movie. Over and over again, except every awkward moment somehow tops the last one. It's brilliant. And that's where I think the performances become so important, because if there's one loose screw, I think it wouldn't have really worked. But that's not the case here. Instead, everyone is just fantastic. Seth Rogen especially surprised me, because if you've got Seth Rogen in your head, there is a very specific kind of performance you'd be expecting, I think, especially in his more comedic roles. But this isn't really that. It's still hilarious, but it's much drier and much more awkward, and it feels more normal. His timing is unbelievable. Some of his funniest moments in the film aren't even when he says something, it's how he reacts. Just a glance across the room, a pause before answering. That feeling of desperately trying to read the room, while also realising absolutely no one knows what's going on anymore. I really hope he does more performances like this, because he was excellent. Then you've got Olivia Wilde, who is just playing someone who is permanently stressed, just trying to keep everything together, trying to keep the evening going. And you can literally feel the pressure coming off of her during the film. Even when she's not speaking, she's constantly reacting, watching everyone, thinking 3 conversations ahead. She's brilliant. Then you've got Edward Norton and Penélope Cruz. And I don't really want to say much because part of the fun is trying to figure them out for yourself. But from the second they appear, you immediately know something is off. They're unbelievably calm, very very zen, very self-aware, and suspiciously relaxed. They're the kind of people who make you feel uncomfortable because they're being too nice, if that makes sense. You spend the entire film trying to figure out what's going on up there, and I love that because it creates this feeling that something is consistently around the corner. Not necessarily a massive twist, just the feeling that the next conversation could get even weirder than the last. And that's what impressed me so much about the pacing, because this thing moves, it doesn't stop, which is kind of amazing considering this whole thing is mainly built around conversations. There's always something changing, someone saying something they shouldn't, someone says something you weren't expecting, the dynamic shifts, the tension changes, the comedy kicks in. Then before you've even processed any of that, you're on to the next thing. I never once checked my watch, not once. If anything, I just kept wondering, where the hell is this going next? Because every time I thought I'd figured out the rhythm, it just completely switched it up. And that's exactly what kept me interested. And I think that's why I enjoyed the single location aspect of it so much. If you don't know by now, you'll know I'm a massive sucker for good location, especially films that revolve around one location constantly changing and shifting. Just give me a good setup, good characters, stick them in a room, and let it play out, because there's nowhere to hide. You can't suddenly throw in this massive action sequence because things are starting to get a bit slow. You can't distract me with spectacle. You've just got the writing, the performances, the direction. That's it. And if one of those things isn't working, you'll feel it immediately. The Invite never has that problem. In fact, the fact that it is in one location the entire film, it makes it more intense. You start feeling like you're at the dinner party with them, like you're just a fly on the wall. Like you're this awkward, silent fifth guest, just sitting there thinking, I should probably leave. But I do also really want to see what happens next. That's pretty much this film in a nutshell. It completely traps you in that environment with them. And because the direction is so effective and so tight, you never feel like you're just watching people talk. You're constantly looking around the room, watching everyone's reactions, trying to figure out who's telling the truth, who's hiding something, and who's eventually going to make the situation worse. It's so well directed. I can't praise it enough in that aspect. Everything feels really compact, really focused. There's no wasted movement, no wasted scenes, no wasted dialogue. Even little throwaway comments end up making the scene feel even funnier or uncomfortable. Oftentimes both. And I absolutely love films that don't feel the need to explain themselves. They trust their audience. It just throws you into conversations and lets you piece everything together yourself, which made me feel way more involved. I wasn't just watching a film. I felt like I was constantly trying to stay one step ahead of it. And I never quite managed it, which is exactly what I wanted. I also really appreciated how heightened these characters felt. No one felt quite normal enough. They're all slightly exaggerated, but in a way that feels intentional. It almost feels like everyone's representing a personality type or a different way of looking at relationships. And because everyone commits to that so hard, it never feels out of place. It just becomes a part of that world. And honestly, this is one of those films where I could just talk about random little pieces that made me laugh. Not even like big moments, just tiny comments, little looks across the room, someone saying something under their breath. There are just so many jokes that don't feel like jokes. They're built into the conversations. And that's my favourite kind of comedy. Nothing feels forced. Nobody stops so the audience has time to laugh. Things just happen. If you catch them, great. You'll laugh your ass off. If not, the conversation has already moved on. It feels natural. I genuinely think that's why I was laughing as much as I was. The film never feels desperate to entertain you. It just lets all these characters bounce off of each other, and they all have unbelievable chemistry. Every pairing works. Nobody feels like they're trying to steal the spotlight. Everyone has their moments, and everyone contributes something different to it. It just goes back to that phrase that kept popping in my head while I was watching this. Everyone understood the assignment. I know I've already said that, but it's honestly the best way I can describe it. Every performance, every line, every creative decision, and that's surprisingly rare, especially with something with such a specific tone, because this could have gone so wrong. I won't lie, this kind of humour isn't for everyone. The awkwardness won't be for everyone, the heightened characters might not be for everyone either. I can already see people walking out of this and thinking, Christ, that was too much. And I get it. This film is relentless. It doesn't let you breathe. It's just one uncomfortable thing after another. One awkward conversation after another. One social disaster after another. But that's exactly why I enjoyed it as much as I did. It commits to the bit. It never suddenly becomes safe, and it never pulls back. It just keeps pushing things further and further and further without actually losing itself at the same time. And I honestly think everyone nailed it, but Olivia Wilde specifically as a director nails it. Which is why, at least for me, this is her best film. It feels like everything she's learned from her first two films has been implemented in some way here and just made better. She's got the comedy from Booksmart. She's got the confidence behind the camera that we saw in Don't Worry Darling. And now she's paired both of those things with what I consider to be an immaculate script. Seriously, I love this screenplay. It's doing so much all at once. It's making you laugh. It's making you think. It's making you uncomfortable. It's making you think about different social interactions you've had in the past, marriage, communication, mental health, the different versions of ourselves we present to other people. It's juggling all these different things while never stopping to give you a lecture. It just lets conversations play out. You take from it what you take from it. And I think that's why it's going to stick with me so much. Even now, I'm already thinking, I probably missed so much in this. There's probably no way I caught every little line the first time, which honestly just makes me want to watch it again. So yeah, I genuinely had a great time with this movie. I laughed way more than I expected to. The performances are fantastic across the board. The pacing never missed a beat. The direction is excellent. The screenplay is razor sharp. And I really think this is one of the best single location films we've had in a while. I walked into the cinema expecting a solid film, but I walked out thinking, this is probably one of my favourite movies of the year so far. And I definitely wasn't expecting to say that today. But yeah, man, those are just my thoughts. I'd love to know, have you seen The Invite and what the hell did you think of it? Even if you didn't like it, let me know. What didn't you like? I just want to talk about this movie with you guys. Let me know what you think. If you do happen to write a comment and you're talking about the film, just keep it spoiler free, because I do want to keep people in the dark on this one, as that is literally the only way you can watch this in the best experience, in my opinion. But yeah, man, what a movie. And yeah, go watch it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Like, subscribe, and go watch some movies. I'll see you in the next one.